newspaper headlines is that I'm building a high-risk hostel, but actually, it's a professional HMO. We're building a high-end £500,000 professional HMO. Let me show you around. Now, before we address the controversy, let me tell you why the newspapers are wrong. And I'm going to educate you about the 4 different types of HMO. HMOs are an incredible way to get great cash flow in your properties compared to single lets. Now let's talk about the different types. First things first is temporary accommodation. Now these HMOs are often high-risk people, often people fleeing domestic violence or people who have just been made homeless and need somewhere to go temporarily. This is bedroom 1 of our 8-bed HMO. In here, we're completely first fixed, including timber, electrical and mechanical. It's really important in your HMOs to put media walls in and make sure you're going high end for tenant satisfaction. Always making sure the sockets are going next to the bed as well. And this comes down to the design phase, which is when you get your E&M, your mechanical drawings, plotting the beds on there and working out, okay, does that socket work there? Is that gonna get blocked by the wardrobe? In doing these projects, you're better off spending the time in the design stage to start with. This will save you your HMOs not functioning well and costing you money when you have to change sockets around later in the development. And also, we put spotlights in every single room just to make them nice and bright and vibrant. The difference between this HMO we're building and the temporary accommodation one would be, for example, we've got en-suites in every bedroom. With temporary accommodation, you don't need high-end, you don't need professional level standards, so you could have shared bathrooms. We could get away with 3 bathrooms for 8 people in this project. But that's not what we're doing. We've told you from the start, we're doing professional HMO, we're doing it high-end, and this is going to be an asset to the neighbourhood. I'm starting to get pissed off with this whole media situation tarnishing our name. Let's talk about the numbers of a temporary accommodation HMO, and this is going to blow your mind. £60 a night times 8 people is £480 a night. These are normally full occupancy, so that would be £14,400 a month in gross rent. And the build cost would be about 50% less. Your time would be about 50% less. So this is the far more lucrative investment vehicle to use. However, this does damage neighbourhoods. It does damage neighbourhoods, it pisses off the neighbours, it makes the streets dirty, it causes crime and antisocial behaviour in an area, and that's not what we're doing with professional. I know I'll tell you more about the professional HMO and what this one's going to be, but now let's dive into MOJ, Ministry of Justice HMOs. Now before we do that, let me take you out to the back where we show you the communal aspect of this property. So out here, we're doing the 6-metre extension off of the back. Now this is where the 8th bedroom is going to go, and we'll be gaining an extra about 4 square metres of communal area. Total communal area on this property is about 20 square metres. However, this is often governed by your local planning laws, but in this locality, it's down to the licence officer's discretion on what is an acceptable amount of communal space, which is a bit of a grey area. So with a Ministry of Justice HMO, and this is people who have freshly come out of prison, you probably wouldn't do the rear extension, and you probably wouldn't be going for 8 beds, you'd probably go more 4 to 6. Due to having that many people, high risk potential people in one household, it could end up being like added catalyst. So you probably wouldn't be doing the 6-metre extension, and you would be keeping the floor print original, not spending extra money trying to create extra bedrooms. However, you've always got to have your end goal in mind, and that always comes down to your finish. Are you going to be doing en-suites? Are you going to be doing media walls, feature walls? All of this stuff should be done in the design stage and the deal at appraisal of when you're actually looking at the numbers and what strategy you're going to be doing. With a Ministry of Justice HMO, you're probably doing similar spec to temporary accommodation, but maybe less en-suites and maybe some more high security doors. However, on this one, the loft conversion is happening right now, so let's go and see how the lads are getting on. Number 3 on that list is student HMOs. And what are student HMOs? Exactly what they say on the tin. Voila, we have a loft conversion. So you saw us just put in the steel beam and everything rolls downhill from that. So we've got the first fix team have come in and put our joists across and first fixed all the way through. They've mapped out the en-suites, put the stairs in, and now we are ready for first fix of mechanical and electrical. When doing these projects, you always want to make sure that your first fix team are lightning quick. The sooner that they can get done and you can get watertight, the sooner all of the rest of the trades can get inside and start cracking on. Right, now back to student HMOs. So with student HMOs, it's exactly what it says on the tin. It's a group of students all renting one house. Now, the key aspect of this for student HMOs is location. It must be near a uni. You're not going to get a student HMO where we are in somewhere like Eastleigh, which doesn't have universities. Of course, the student demographic and the market has changed with the rise of PBSA, which is purpose-built student accommodation. They're those big high-rise buildings which can house up to maybe 100 students that you find right in the centre of town. Now, what they did is they solved the issue of the low-quality student stock. And when I say low-quality student stock, it was these 5 to 6, 7-bed houses which didn't have any en-suites, didn't have anything in terms of nice facilities. They all looked dilapidated and tired. Now, when the PBSA accommodation was brought to the market, this really killed it for a lot of landlords who were doing HMOs, but they were doing students and they weren't taking it seriously. So now what students are looking for is they're all looking for en-suites, and they're normally after COVID looking for houses which are a little bit smaller in size, sort of your 4 to 5 bed rather than the 7, 8 plus, because people don't share in groups as large anymore. And it's quite upsetting, really. One thing we're doing on this project to step up our game is the room sizes. Now, when we're doing professional HMOs, the en-suites way above the minimum standard. The room size, this room is about 16, 17 square meters. Kitchenettes go in there, absolute massive room up here. And then through into the back room, we've got a big 13, 14 square meter in there. Now, in a competitive market that we currently are in, there's a little bit of fear in the market of rooms not renting quickly. From what I've seen, is your highest quality rooms, your biggest refurbs, your biggest spends, really jazzing them up and making sure that they fit the purpose of nice, high-end, big living spaces for professionals to share together in a good location. If you hit them 3 parameters, location, size, layout, you're always going to rent your rooms bang on time. And that's why we're doing professional. Now, let's get into what it actually takes to do these projects. And let me take you downstairs and we'll compare what is a typical old HMO room to all of the new style HMOs. What the media is missing is the high-end development that we're doing rather than a migrant social housing HMO. Let's come downstairs and you'll see the difference in what stock we're providing that they're not really covering. Let's head into one of the smaller bedrooms and see exactly why we do a mix in our HMOs. So in here, layout is absolutely everything. And what's absolutely critical is the functionality of the room. And you might ask, why don't we just do all of our rooms big? Well, that's down to, of course, return on investment, but also functionality and price. Not everybody has the budget to pay 800, 900, maybe even £1,000 for a big studio room. Whereas a lot of the people who have just left home, you may be 18 to 22 year olds, just got their first job and want to leave out of home, they'd much rather be paying 725, 750 for a sort of 8, 9 square meter room. I think this room is about 9 square meters, and how we maximise space is we put a 4-foot double, and what that also does is it stops people having their guests over all the time. We don't mind the guests a couple of nights of the week, but not all the time. TV will be going up on that wall. We've put in the media for the sockets down below, and then through into the back-to-back en-suites. And when doing your en-suites, it's always good to do them back-to-back because that makes the service and the plumbing much easier and quicker. Also, it means that when the other person is showering in there, you've got a lot of the insulation off of that en-suite to drown out the sound, rather than having an en-suite next to your bed from your neighbour. Boom, down here we've got a kitchenette style all the way up, and then we'll have a media wall here. This will almost be like your own little studio, as close as what you can to a studio apartment without the additional fire eggs for cooking in the rooms. Now through into here, bay window, sockets will go under here, bed in the normal location there, and TV on the wall. A lovely room. The good thing about using the desk underneath the bay window is you take up some wasted space. So your desk automatically fits in there pretty well. This then increases the floor print area in your room. And of course, another big ensuite at our 2.75 square meters. If you're not putting ensuites in your HMO, what are you doing? Off suites? Just to recap, what's the key differences between professional and student? Professional, your average tenancy length is going to go from 6 months to 18 months, whereas your students, they'll normally be doing the academic year, they'll normally be sharing as a group, whereas on your professional market, you'll be doing individual ASTs. Now, they've just released the new Renters' Rights Bill and this is going to make the student market change considerably. We'll be doing a little bit of a story on that later on when they finally finalise how exactly the student market is going to be affected. And there you have it, sports fans. There's the 4 different types of HMO development that you can do. Now, as always, you've got to know your target market when you're sourcing these properties. In 2 weeks' time, this development will be looking far different from how it is now, and then hopefully the media will actually see the high-end development that we are producing here at Professional Co-Living. So drop a like, drop a follow, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you very much.